What is the worst marriage proposal you ever heard of or experienced? You/Sniffosaurus responded. My friend and her boyfriend were watching TV one night. He tossed a ring to her and said, "Here, you should wear this." He later got mad that she had never said yes to his proposal and never wore the ring. Like, brew, what proposal? You/Lixro responded. My cousin proposed to his girlfriend at a public event on stage. They were performers and got rejected. Then in private she told him yes, but she couldn't accept his proposal in public. Anyway, they filed for divorce a month into being married. You/Bagel with queef cheese responded. Oh, my friend told me how her first husband proposed. They were in his home country for Christmas and first, he left her alone in his empty house with no food and electricity all day and most of the night. He was out partying with his friends and she had just flown in. When she was upset the next day about being alone and hungry for hours, he told her that she could have gone to the neighbor's house and asked for food. She didn't speak the language and had never been to the country before. She was upset, so she called the airline to change her tickets to leave the next day. He threw an engagement ring at her and told her that she had ruined his Christmas and here was her fucking ring. They did marry but ended up divorcing a few years later. You/justbuyingme_92 responded. When my wife was in college, her parents were strongly encouraging her to marry this guy that they just loved for some reason. He was a few years older and in the Air Force stationed across the country from where she lived. They helped him secretly arrange for the three of them to meet her in the airport as she deboarded a flight. She had been somewhere, don't recall where, and he had gotten leave and arrived in town a couple days earlier unbeknownst to her. As she comes down the jetway, there he is, dressed as a clown. Like full-on circus clown, big shoes, face makeup, hat, everything, holding a balloon with a ring tied to it. They had been dating but mostly long distance at this point and she was only 20 years old. He was like 25. But as mentioned, her parents loved this guy. So, there she is, with a clown on one knee, and no, she's not into clowns. There was no clown history in their story. There stand her parents, all excited. She actually accepted. Later I would ask why and she says it was more of being in shock and everyone staring and she didn't know what to do. Needless to say, there was no marriage. She broke off the engagement about a month later. I've seen the pics and they are disturbing to say the least. You/WSBCute responded. One of the worst marriage proposals LVE heard of involved a guy who decided to pop the question at a crowded fast food restaurant during rush hour. He got down on one knee in front of everyone, but instead of a ring, he pulled out a plastic toy ring from a vending machine. The woman was caught off guard, and before she could say anything, he added, "If you say yes, we can upgrade to the real thing someday." She walked out, leaving him there with his toy ring and a lot of awkward stares from the other customers. You/Brockenbricks responded. My mum and stepdad have been together for about 20 years. They are both anti-marriage and have never done it, but they live together, own a house and are basically married every way but legally. I call him my stepdad because it's easier. Due to some family drama recently, specifically my stepbrother being a dick towards my stepdad about money, long and sad story, they ended up having to look into the legality of certain things and realized that essentially if they wanted to be safe with their money they needed to be married, largely for tax reasons that I don't know the ins and outs of. My mum came home from work after looking into all of this and said, "So unfortunately we need to get married." My stepdad responded, "For fuck's sake. They're not having a ceremony or anything, but I'm wearing a fancy hat to the town hall whether they like it or not. They think I'm joking." You/just a spicy root, OP, responded. I came home from work, got a call something happened from his friend, roommate, and he would tell me when I got home. This roommate had me stopped at the door. He convinced me to believe my BF was killed in a major crash on the way home from work. In my mind, he was dead. I broken down, screaming and crying on the lawn. After a little bit, the BF walked out and proposed. This was all due to a rumor they heard at work. They decided to test me to make sure I was loyal. You/certain_accident3382 responded. Less than an hour after giving birth, as we get to settle and bond with our baby, my third, his second, having been in a relationship roughly 5 years at this point, I'm taking paternity leave, so I can actually be there this time, but work wants a copy of our marriage license to approve it. I'm half loopy and in that brand new baby afterglow, so I'll laugh and tell him that we can get the license but I still need a real proposal. Never got that real proposal. But he got to bond, the kids are insured, and we're still being pains in each other's asses 9 years on, so there's that. You/spare_refrigerator59 responded. XBF said to me, "You and I are having dinner with Will and Mary. How would we sit at the dinner table? I said. Who's Mary and Will? It's hypothetical. Me and you and Mary and Will. Long story short, after too many failed attempts, I said Will, you, Mary, and me? Are you asking me to marry you? He said, well, I don't know what you think. Yeah, no. Our issue was that he could never speak to me straight about anything. I'm not committing to this damn Rubik's Cube. U/Otter111A responded. It never goes according to plan. Costa Rica. Plan A. Hike to top of extinct volcano. Beautiful lake at the top. Pop question. Downfall. Got there and some dude was blasting Euro techno and hosting a 2-person dance party. The vibe wasn't right. Plan B. Porch overlooking the main volcano. Get there early. Pop question in private. Execution. Excused myself from the table to use restroom. In reality, I was setting up a camera to record the moment. I returned to the table to find that she wasn't there. I figured she was at the restroom for real, so L waited. And waited. After like 15 nervous minutes, I went to find her. She was out by parking lot. I guided her over to the porch, which was now packed with tourists. Set camera up and hoped for the best. It went well. Aftermath. We left the volcano area for the Pacific Coast beaches. I burned my feet on the sand so badly I needed to be in a wheelchair with bandages on both feet. A guy comes over at breakfast one day and asks what happened. He said he was on the porch and saw me propose. U/jumpy_presence_7029 responded. My sister-in-law's sister, Beth. Beth had been living with her boyfriend and they had been together for 3 years, both mid to late 20s. Marriage came up. Her boyfriend said he didn't believe in that. So Beth called her parents and asked if she could move back home. Within 48 hours, Beth had an enormous rock on her hand. I mean, they are still together, seem very happy and have 2 adorable kids. But it was definitely a rushed here. I want to keep you. He literally did walk in, put the ring on her finger and asked if she'd stay. That is the worst. My husband did propose on a sweltering 95-degree day. I was just wishing he'd shut up and put the ring on already. Being outside was miserable. U/a big bluebird responded. Over here in Singapore, there's a scheme called Build to Order, BTO, flats, which is basically new public housing that is heavily subsidized by the government. There are a bunch of rules regarding applications, including being a married couple. Only singles above 35 were allowed to ballot for it recently, so you can see where the priorities are, and what not. It is rather common for a guy to propose here by simply asking if they want to BTO LOL. Many use it to test the waters ahead of an actual proposal, but I know many who straight up ask this in place of a proposal. U/7 sisters 3 brothers responded. My mother-in-law gave me her mother's diamond engagement ring to give to my son when she died. He and his GF came to dinner and I took him back to the bedroom to give it to him. My son goes back out to the living room and shows it to his girlfriend. She says how pretty it is and he says, "Here, you can have it if you want." She says, "Well God Joe, not like that." She gave it back to him. LOL, it's been 8 years, they are still together but not married. U/delicious_writing 408 responded. He was pissed drunk, asked me to marry him. In my bedroom. Was approximately 2 to 3 a.m. and we had just come home from a party. My response, do you think this is realistic? I was not wasted drunk like he was. He was 22, I was 25. Turns out I dodged that bullet. I love him dearly, still consider him a friend, but he has serious drinking issues, which he is at least aware of now. He got engaged to someone else 2 years after this. They had a kid, broke up. Then he married and divorced a stripper, and has last count 3+ kids with 2 different ladies. Also, I did not want to move from Canada to Arizona. He was living in Canada when we met. U/realistic_river_868 responded. An emotionally abusive guy I broke up with asked me out to dinner at our first date restaurant. He asked me back, said he'd be everything I always wanted him to be and that we were meant for one another. I refused his offer. He pulled a ring out of his pocket in a box for me to open. It was beautiful, but closed it and scooted it across the table back to him. His reply was no shocker. He produced the receipt to show the $25,000 he'd spent on it. I was fine with a plain band only when we were together, not a materialistic person. He said, "Good thing I kept the receipt so I can return it." Told me everything I needed to know right there. He was just testing me in his narcissistic way, and likely would have returned the ring anyway. He's still single last I heard. U/the real CBG response. Came here to say either Mr. Collins or Darcy #1. Collins is just smarmy, but Darcy, he just can't stop himself. In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. In declaring myself thus, I'm fully aware that I will be going expressly against the wishes of my family, my friends, and, I hardly need add, my own better judgment. The relative situation of our families is such that any alliance between us must be regarded as a highly reprehensible connection. Indeed, as a rational man, I cannot but regard it as such myself, but it cannot be helped. Almost from the earliest moments of our acquaintance, I have come to feel for you a passionate admiration and regard, which, despite of my struggles, has overcome every rational objection. And I beg you, most fervently, to relieve my suffering and consent to be my wife. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, you might enjoy the rest of my content. Check it out.